Imagine you're a general. The fate of your city rests on your next decision. Do you go to war? You could consult your advisors, or you could consult a corpse.
Or you're a king about to found a new colony across the sea. You need divine approval. So you don't call a cabinet meeting. You book an appointment with a woman breathing hallucinogenic gases, speaking in the voice of a god.
This wasn't the fringe. This was the system. Welcome back to the Afterlife Files. I'm Sara.
And I'm Jim. Today we are traveling to ancient Greece, not to talk about philosophers and democracies, but to explore how they institutionalized the afterlife. They didn't just believe in ghosts and prophets, they built the bureaucracy to manage them.
Let's start with the most famous hotline to the divine, the oracle at Delphi. Perched on the slopes of Mount Parnassus, this was the geopolitical nerve center of the ancient world, and at its heart was the Pythia, the living medium chosen to channel Apollo himself.
But this wasn't just a woman having a vision. It was a controlled, state-sanctioned ritual. The Pythia would undergo days of preparation, fasting, bathing in a sacred spring. Then she would descend into a small enclosed chamber called the Adeton.
Ancient sources describe fissures in the rock there emitting fumes, vapors that may have been ethylene or methane. She would inhale these, chew laurel leaves, and enter a profound and often violent trance. Her words were guttural, shrieks, and babble.
And here's the key bureaucratic filter. Her raw, frenzied utterances weren't the final product. Male priests stood by, listening. They would translate her cries into the famously ambiguous hexameter verses that were delivered to the client. It was a chain, God to medium, medium to priest, priest to state.
But what if your question wasn't for a god, but for a specific soul? For that, the Greeks had a far darker, more terrifying institution, necromancy, and they had a specific office for it, the Nekyomanteion, the oracle of the dead.
Picture a place like the Nekyomanteion at Ephra, a dark, windowless labyrinth built over a deep chasm, believed to be a direct portal to Hades. This was not a public forum. It was a grim, psychological ordeal.
A pilgrim seeking to speak to a shadow would prepare for days in total isolation, eating a bleak diet meant to thin the veil between worlds. They'd perform elaborate, chilling sacrifices of black animals, an offering to the powers below.
Then, in the absolute, suffocating darkness of the inner chamber, amidst sensory deprivation and likely hidden effects by the priests, the seeker would perceive their answer. A fleeting shadow, a disembodied whisper, the ghostly figure of a loved one or a prophet. This was personal, traumatic, and high stakes.
So why did this entire system, the divination and the necromancy, eventually fade? Rational philosophy from thinkers like Socrates began to question it. Political powers manipulated it for credibility. And finally, with the rise of Christianity, these official channels to pagan gods and restless spirits were sealed shut, declared demonic.
But the legacy is haunting. The Greeks, in their way, sought to bring order to the chaos of the unseen. They built ministries for prophecy and offices for the dead. They tried to make the unknowable administrable.
It leaves us with a profound question, one we'd love for you to ponder. In our modern world of science and data, what uncertainty, what grief, what impossible question would be so important that you would undergo a ritual of terror just to hear a whisper from the dark?
Would you climb the mountain to Delphi? Would you brave the oracle of the dead?
Let us know what you'd ask in the comments below. If you felt a chill on this journey with us, give this video a like, share it with a fellow seeker, and subscribe to the Afterlife Files for more explorations into history's greatest mysteries.
Until next time, keep looking beyond the veil.
Thanks for watching.